Hello, Everybody Loves Raymond 360 Live on this special day where we will be talking to Amy Aquino. Hello, everybody. As I adjust the camera, hello. Hello, Gil. Let me say hello to everybody. Very excited. Hello, Gil. Hello in England. Hello, Danelle. I thank you, Danelle, for those suggestions for the mug sayings from the TV show that we could put on a mug. That's really great. Hello, Michael. Hello, Michelle. Hello, everybody. Let's see here. Hello, Amy. Hello in Australia. You know, the biggest audience is New Jersey. Oh, there's Amy right away. Fantastic.
Oh no, did I do the wrong thing? I'm sorry. It's
You did. Sorry, I had to plug in my mic. You did absolutely the right thing. I'm delighted, Amy.
okay, good.
I end up saying hello. Sorry, I got to adjust my volume here. I end up saying hello to a lot of people, and I feel bad when I have a guest and they're sitting there going,
No, I'll say hello to them too.
Amy, that was a short interview if you're leaving, because we only had a few moments. Hello, Teresa in Chicago. Ah, yes. Look at
Toronto. We love Toronto.
Your hair looks good.
Do you think I'm not going to butt in, Tom? Do you think I'm not going to join in?
Oh, no, I've met you before. I know what I'm in for. Your hair looks good, by the way. I noticed you're adjusting your hair.
Thank you.
Yeah. Amy, yes. People are saying Amy's quicker than other guests. So just so you know, for reference, my longest guest to join was 35 minutes into the hour-long discussion. And so some people are not so technically adept, and other people, like yourself, are very much so. All right, a lot of compliments for you. So, Amy, first of all, because people don't know this, but usually I will see you fairly often at Phil's house, but there's been a pandemic or something that I've read, and so yes, you haven't heard. I have read. So usually I would see you and we'd catch up for a few minutes and then whatever. So this is just selfishly, this is good for me to be able to talk to you. Yeah.
I know.
And before we start getting deep into it, we have a lot in common that you may not realize, but gardening, we should talk about gardening for this whole hour and really annoy the fans. Let's go back, Amy, because I talked to Tom McGowan brought up your name. All right. And I think for fans, because we're talking around the world, as I mentioned, and a lot of people don't know that, oh, this was a TV show that was on CBS and it was fighting for CBS's life, and Amy Aquino ends up in a nice, fun episode. They don't know the background of you have this very illustrious career of being on so many different shows, and because of this, I'm not trying to compliment you. I'm bringing it up for a reason, so don't take it as a compliment.
No, I won't. I know better than that.
Let's just go back, because your depth of knowledge is going to be helpful where I'm headed with some of this conversation. So, how do you even get into acting to begin with?
I did I was doing a lot of different arts. I played the bassoon, I played the flute. And then I just liked the acting thing. I started doing it in high school and did a lot of it. And then going to college, I thought about acting and I thought, well, that's not a way to make a living, which strictly speaking, statistically speaking, is true. So I also enjoyed biology, and so I ended up doing, I majored in biology. It was pre-med, but there was a ton of, and it was a school, it was Harvard, where there was no theater department at all. But there were a ton of people like myself who just loved doing theater, and so there was a ton going on. And I just looked at what I was doing by my junior year. I said, well, I'm spending about 40 hours a week doing theater in a school with no theater department. And I'm spending about 5 hours a week in my biology. So it looks like I have voted with my feet. So decided that I would at least give it a shot. But I completed my degree in biology, so I had that to back, as a backup.
So
And moved to New York. Sorry?
sorry,
Biology.
let me just interrupt you for a second, because you raced past this. You went to Harvard for biology. Okay.
Correct.
So that's not, I left my community college to try and go acting. So it's a big move. Your parents are giving their opinion in any way?
Well, I didn't leave Harvard. I mean, I got my degree, like I said. So, I did a thesis, the whole 9 yards. So I had that to fall back on. But my mother was just a wonderful, crazy woman. I could show you a picture, but and she loved having attention on herself. She loved the fact that I had been acting. She, that went to all my shows and in high school, went up to my shows at Harvard. And she would say, well, I'd much rather be watching you on stage than in an operating theater. And so she was very excited about it. And I think the fact that I had completed my degree, so I had this, relatively useful degree in biology, let them feel okay about it. They knew that I wasn't going to just, pursue this till the day I died if it didn't work, but that I just needed to try it. So they could not have been more supportive than they were. And I got that, just a crappy little apartment, 350 square feet in Hell's Kitchen before it was hot, when it was it was hot, like hell hot.
Yeah.
Sharing it with my best friend from high school, who was a guy, and he slept in the back, I slept in the front, and they were great about it. They came, they visited, they helped me move in. They were really, really supportive. And had I left and not got my degree, that would have been more of a problem. But the fact that I finished it gave them comfort.
Yeah. So
they were fine.
even finishing it. So Amy, only because I'm seeing some comments, is the squirrel that's operating your generator, is it going slowly? Because they're saying your internet seems you're a little blurry. I can hear you perfectly though.
Oh, I'm blurry? Well, let's see.
But I hear you perfectly. So.
Yeah. Is it the light? Because I got the major sunlight coming in.
No, that would help us. Nope.
Is it dirty? Let me see. That could be, because I garden a lot. Did we mention that? Is that bothering anyone?
No. All the epilepsy is kicked in by now.
Okay, is that any better?
Amy, it's still.
But you can't see me.
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly, and I think either if you leave, the problem is if Amy leaves and it comes back. I think the fact that the sound is perfect, I think we'll live with it, Amy, because otherwise we have to.
I went through so much trouble to put my makeup on. I wonder if there's a better spot I could go to, but I don't want to turn this ring light off.
Are you on Wi-Fi, Amy? Are you on Wi-Fi?
I should be on Wi-Fi, and I've got. What do I have? I got Wi-Fi going, right? Let me double. Yeah, my Wi-Fi's going, and
great. I don't think it's going to change. Let's press on, because if you,
right.
Yeah, I hear you perfectly. And we see you. You look good. All right. So
I could turn on. I could put it on airplane mode and just be on Wi-Fi if you want.
We can try it.
Okay, I'll try to come back if you lose me. Okay, bye.
All right. We see if Amy, the tension is building. Thank you, Wendell Poons. Yes, the sound is fine. We will keep it going and she will jump back in. Hello, Leo in Toronto. Yes, Karen, the picture comes and goes. I agree. So let's see. We'll invite her back. And here we go. All right. As long as you can hear her and you can see her okay, that's good.
I'm trying this again. Oh,
I think, yeah, Amy, let's just press on. You sound great. You do look good. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. It's every once in a while you get a little digital effect there. So,
okay.
yes, but we can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
So now, only because a lot of questions came in.
Okay.
So I want to go back because people are asking. So I'm just filling in a little bit. Hell's Kitchen is an area of Manhattan. Everybody who's listening, the original Improv is in Hell's Kitchen. It was let's say it called it an artsy area, but really a down trodden area back when Amy is talking. And so that leap where her parents were like, yeah, and especially her mother, is great because that's a huge thing because most people wouldn't necessarily be like, you know what, I don't care that you're not going to potentially do surgery. I'd rather see you pursue the theater. That is very rare, I would say, for parents. Yeah, which is phenomenal.
And my parents were much older as well, and it helped that, I mean, they both grew up very poor, so they were not uncomfortable with, dealing with challenges, so and living in a challenging place, but they were very supportive. Yeah. But
awesome.
New York, so I get to New York, and I figured New York has waited long enough for me, which is why I didn't want to put it off any longer. And it turns out it hadn't. It really wasn't particularly interested in me on any level at that time.
Acting.
So I started taking classes. Yeah, I could not get arrested. I started taking classes because I hadn't really had any training. Because remember, I went to school, I had a theater department. And I just took tons of classes, and then I started auditioning for acting schools because I looked around and I saw who are the people getting the jobs, and it was like Kevin Kline and Meryl Streep and these people that went to Juilliard and Yale. And so I started auditioning. The Juilliard one did not work out. I was way too jaded and old to do that. But I auditioned for Yale Drama School 3 times, 3 years in a row, was flatly rejected the first 2 times, not even waitlisted. And I just kept coming back and kept taking my classes, moved to Minneapolis, actually, because I heard there that there was the unemployment rate for actors at any given time hovered around 50%, as opposed to New York, where it hovered around 95%. So I moved there and immediately got an agent. I got the lead in a show. And I was ready to just be there, but I came back for the holidays and it went, back to Philly where I grew up. And then I had my 3rd audition for Yale, and that's when they finally accepted me. So then I actually got training.
Awesome. Just 2 little bite. Where did you go to acting school in New York? Just not like
I went to HB Studios, you got it, and then I took private. I studied dance at the Nat Horn Musical Theater with Nat Horn jazz hands, and he was fabulous. That building has been knocked down, and it's now, I think, part of Playwrights Horizons. Turn my notifications off. And I studied. I took one kind of class where it was like a guru guy, and that was about getting in touch with your emotions. But that's when I finally actually got into Yale. So maybe it was working for me on some levels. But mostly that was in New York. It was in a little studio somewhere. Taylor Miller. That's where I met Taylor, and that was the reason I did it, because we're friends to this day. She was Nina on All My Children, the very, very, very long-running soap opera. And and we're friends to this day. We met, we were 25 when we met. We just visited them in Florida. We just adore them. So
Amy, let me ask you this. Sorry. I'm just going to jump here into Amy appeared in 4 episodes of Raymond. I'm just cutting to some of these things that the questions that are coming up. When you're not getting work, before you get into Yale, Are you sitting there going, maybe I'm not any good? Or were you completely like, I'm talented, they just haven't discovered me yet?
Probably the latter. I think if I'd gotten to the point where I thought I'm just no good, then I I would have stopped. Um, and then I got those little things, like I said, I go to Minneapolis and they're crazy about me. I did a little bit of stand up, and I did really well with that. I didn't pursue it because I don't have the discipline, but when I did do it, I got props for it. Um, I still believed in myself. I had done enough in college that made me feel like, no, I got something to offer here. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I definitely have something to offer. But
And
I say that when I give advice to kids, coming out of schools, I say, the minute you start losing your self-esteem, find something else great to do because there is no reason in the world to lose your self-esteem over a business like this that is so arbitrary. It's ridiculous.
That is great advice because the arbitrary aspect, you look at Ray, who was really 38 when the show hit, and Patty Heaton was 38 when the show hit, and a lot of other friends of mine who are in acting who hit it late. It's so arbitrary. If the stars don't align, if Ray doesn't do Letterman and Phil and Ray hook up, Ray is a really good stand-up comedian who headlines who no one's ever heard of. And
Yeah.
that he's the same talented guy that we know. It's just as you know, this fickle business of, and I think one of the reasons I started doing this was to tell the story of everybody involved and how a show comes about, because you only see the 6 people on camera or the 12 people or the 4, and it's
Yeah.
so much work and so much detail that has to go into it. So so now you graduate Yale, which is very prestigious, and then what happens?
Well, while I was at Yale, and this is another little cautionary tale or hopeful tale, I was considered like the utility player. It's like, Amy's funny. She can give her that little funny character role. She'll do something funny with it. So all I did was these little bitty roles, which is great practice. But I came in there kind of good at that, and but it certainly worked it. But I hadn't played a role by the time I got to like January of my third and final year, and went into um, the dean. I said, okay, am I going to do a lead before I leave here? 3 years, paying this tuition. And he said, well, sure. So he let me look at what was coming up, and there were these 1-hour plays that were by playwrights at Yale and being directed by directors at Yale. And he said, which one do you want to do? And so I chose this one, and that's how I met Tom. Well, we knew each other already, but that's where we really kind of solidified it because I played his mom. Thank you. In a wig, that was not unlike this hair right here, and as this woman running for office in Western Pennsylvania, and then like a couple of days into rehearsals, because there was another play in the bill in the second half. And 2 of my classmates were in it, and they got pulled to go do The Importance of Being Earnest on the repertory stage with the professionals. And they asked me if I would take over one of those roles. And after I finished crying, I came back and I said, okay, fine. Because I did like to push myself. So now I had intermission to go from being this 50-year-old woman running for office in Western Pennsylvania to a hooker in a G-string walking around with an IV on stage the whole time. And in both of them, I was screaming and yelling, and both of them I was smoking. So the time I got done, it was the night before we were going to have our gigantic auditions in New York. At the time, the top 12, this is the league auditions, the top 12 acting schools in America would bring all their graduating class to New York, and we would be in at the Juilliard School, and we each had 3 minutes, so we each did 2 different scenes, and with another actor. And I So I'm on the train going, and my voice is like this because I've spent the past 2 weeks for 2 hours screaming, yelling, and smoking like crazy. But one of the scenes that I chose to do with this fabulous actress, Kimberly Arn, was Agnes of God, where she was played, but we didn't love the play. We thought it was a little bit, on the money. So we did it as a satire. Agnes of God is about a nun who gets pregnant. They find the dead fetus in her dormitory room, and they hire a psychologist who is agnostic, just kind of a neurotic mess, heavy chain smoker, to try to figure out what happened. And so it's literally about a dead baby. And we decided to do it as a satire because that's the way we rolled, because we just thought it was so funny if you just tweaked it. I mean, we didn't change the lines at all. We just went ahead and did the lines, but we did them our own way. And she played her as a completely sort of nymphomaniacal Agnes. And my character played just as totally neurotic. And I got the longest cigarette I could find and was, desperate trying to light it. And my voice was down here, and I was afraid no one would be able to see it. Well, it turns out that it was done by, this role was played by, oh my God, out of my head, with a really light voice like this. It was Amanda Plummer. And come on, Tom, come on.
You're looking for Brenda Vaccaro? Whose voice?
No, this is Broadway. It was.
No, I know, but
she was
yeah.
You know what? You can look it up. Somebody Google it.
Somebody will
Google
find
who did it. Agnes of God. So she was famous for having this really low voice and smoking. So we started doing this satire, and people went nuts. Typically at these auditions, they literally say nothing. They don't laugh. They don't applaud. Nothing. Two people come up, do a scene. This is all agents and casting directors.
Amy, sorry, can we slow it down just a little? That audience is what, 100 people, 200 people, 20 agents?
Sorry. Yeah, it's probably 250, and it's
okay.
Casting directors, agents, representatives from all the studios. They come from all over the country because this is their chance to get, the next hot person. And
right. So the actors, and I just want to go back. When Amy said Tom, she's talking about Tom McGowan, who was at Yale. When she said she played his mother, which is comical because they're pretty much the same age. And so because I don't know anything about this world, Amy, you're basically, it's almost like in a sporting event or something where it's scouting. And so this could make or break your career. So everything is riding on kind of this first time anyone's seen Amy, and you're taking a big swing. And you're saying mostly they are poker faced, and it's like, thank you very much, next, right? That's the picture you're painting?
Yeah, I mean, it's just once, NYU will come up, they'll start sending, hi, this is NYU, and they'll send out the first two kids to do their scene, and then they leave, and the other people come in, and all you're hearing is, pens on paper, and as they're taking notes, etc. And it's a big amphitheater, and it was full. So, and meanwhile, because I hadn't done, I only done one show at the Yale Rep. Yale Repertory Theater was a professional theater, and still is. And so you would have critics and the general public coming to see those shows. But I was the utility player. I was only in one show at the Rep, and this was an amazing experience. I was on stage the whole time saying nothing it was very odd. Carl Capitorto, adorable, lovely man. And it was such an odd play. And I'm on stage, and I'm sitting next to this hole, and there's a tree with crystals hanging off of it. And in the last 5 minutes of the play, I am being lowered into the hole, and I have my first line, which is, let me go, let me go. And from the audience, I hear, let us go. The whole 2 hours, I've been watching people leaving, and not just, quietly leaving. They would stand up, and then they would put on their coat, and then they would loudly go down the aisle and leave. So this has been the whole thing. So that was my experience. That was as much as I had been exposed to the general public through my time at Yale. So yes, it literally was all writing on this. And Kim and I, we did it for our classmates, and there were a lot of people and some of the faculty who said, you can't do this. It is just offensive. It's just a terrible idea. And then I had one acting teacher who said, he's from Romania, Andre Belgrade, and he smoked with would actually hold a cigarette holder. And he said, what, you can't, how could you do this any other way? Is there another way to do this? No, it's hilarious. You have to do it this way. So we just decided if people don't get it, then they don't get us. So it's not going to be a good match anyway.
So then, just because we're going to run out of time and you're going to have to come back, yes, then you're going to have to come back. We're halfway through our session already. So, Amy and you were painting a picture where there's zero reaction, stone face. You're looking at Mount Rushmore reaction of statues. But when you guys did it, what was the reaction?
They went crazy. Once they figured out that what we were doing, they went crazy. They were slamming their feet on the floor. They were stamping. All I had to do was take this giant cigarette and go. And they and it was madness. And we go off stage, and Lloyd Richards is there. He was the dean of the school, and he was very, very composed and very religious person. And he was just kind of horrified. Nobody had ever seen it. People still actually talk about that just because it was so out of place. And then then everybody wanted me. Then suddenly I went from good old Amy to, all these agencies wanting me. And then I got a job out of that working with Bill Irwin, who was directing and starring in this commedia play, which was a perfect mix, commedia dell'arte. And I wore a giant fat suit and was beating him with a club. And Franny Conroy was in that. It was just,
this is
and
where,
I had to fly.
Yeah, where is this? Where is?
Oh, La Jolla Playhouse in California.
Okay,
so it's in San Diego. So I had to fly from my graduation in Connecticut the same day, because I started rehearsals the next day. Flew to San Diego to start rehearsals on this thing.
And just a little side note, just because we're talking to Raymond fans, and we're very specifically talking about your experience, which is the legitimate theater, which I don't want to get into the whole pecking order, but it's kind of the top of the pyramid of acting. And now, just to give a little historical perspective, the La Jolla Playhouse is where Vivian Vance was seen, I believe, before she was cast in I Love Lucy. I think Desi and I believe Jess Oppenheimer went down there. So now you go from, whatever, utility player. Now you're in a play in La Jolla, which is a big deal. Just for the outsiders, it's not Broadway, but it's a big deal. It is.
It's a major reason for it.
Right. I'm not saying I'm not saying it as a criticism. I'm saying it for the people watching. Well, I don't know La Jolla. It's giant. So now, because I have a lot of Raymond questions that just zipped by, you do that. You go to that play, and you're in the legitimate theater. And correct me if I'm wrong about anything here, but I just want to go, because a lot of people are asking, do you remember the ELR edition? Do you remember all this stuff? They're asking specificity at these episodes, which is great. So now you're at La Jolla. Where is your first TV gig?
First TV gig. So what was good was I'm in San Diego, and now I'm off during the days. And on my age, I had an agent in LA. The agency had 2 offices. So I got to meet with the LA office. I would come up during the day or on my day off. And so I was able to, form those connections, which was really good because I lived in New York. And my first TV gig was through Andy Borowitz. And this is somebody I had known at Harvard. He was writing for the Crims, and then he was the one who created Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. he had come out, you know, because there was this thing from the Harvard Lampoon, which is their comedy magazine. There's like a direct channel, as you well know, into Hollywood and, you know, comedy writers. So, and he was one of those people, and he hired me for this show called Easy Street that he did with Lonnie Anderson. Could not have been sweeter. And there were a couple of the recurring characters on that were Jamie Cromwell and Dana Ivey. And he hired me as an Italian immigrant who comes to work as a maid for her. And she lives in Los Angeles. And he ends up having me, I'm speaking Italian, very broken English, some Italian, and then singing a song from an opera in French while I'm vacuuming Carmen, and I end up with a rose between my teeth in Carmen, and that was how I was introduced to television.
That's what you just described. I didn't know could ever be performed. It sounds a little crazy. And he thought that you could. I mean, you obviously pulled it off. And he thought, you know, who can do this insane thing? Amy Aquino. Let's get her.
He had hired. We worked together at Harvard. He wrote a play called "Oh No, No Net," which he had written to be done in drag at the Lampoon, but it was rejected, so he did it with women, and women and men. And I played the bitch, and I took that role instead of doing Three Sisters with Peter Sellers, who's a very famous opera director, because I wanted to sing. I hadn't done that on stage, so we had that relationship, and the bitch, my character was really out there too, and so he knew I had that
ability. So Amy, only because now for Raymond fans, because I could talk to you for hours, obviously, and the people I think
and
would
we
listen.
need to apparently about gardening, from what I understand. So
yeah. Well, that I would, because I have some tomato issues. Cherry tomatoes, phenomenal. Any other tomatoes just don't do well.
They're harder. They're harder because of the heat.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk. Let's cut to the first time you were even aware of Everybody Loves Raymond, or you're going to audition for Everybody Loves Raymond, and how that comes about.
I was aware of Everybody Loves Raymond because Patty Heaton and I came up together in New York, and we had a very close mutual friend. We would audition for a lot of the same things. I hadn't actually met her, but Michael would talk about my friend Patty to me, and he would talk about my friend Amy to her, so we kind of knew all about each other. I had auditioned for Patty's role on Everybody Loves Raymond. Little known fact. I remember going to that audition.
You went. You read in front of for Lisa Miller Katz or for Phil and Ray?
I must not have gotten beyond the casting director, because I think that when I auditioned for Peggy, it was the first time I met them.
Okay, so just for again a little historical perspective, I think Phil saw 200 people, so it's not like Amy went in and two other people went in and Patty got it. So I know that at least 200, because the wife is very hard to cast, because you need a funny, attractive. You have to play a lot of colors, and there are not that many people who can play that. Okay, so Lisa Miller Katz is the casting director, and what she does is she sees 1,000 people and narrows it down to show Phil 200 tapes. So Phil might have seen you on a tape or not, but because
but I didn't meet with him in person. I don't think I got to that point with it. It definitely didn't test for it, but
right.
And it was, I'm not cast as wives very much, because I'm not very good at being I take up a lot of space. Okay. I know that about myself. I take up a lot of space. So unless it's a wife who is takes up a lot of space, I tend not to. So, but I was delighted to audition for it. And Patty has, obviously played she had the exact level of being, she was absolutely as important as him every moment of every episode. There was no question about it. But I think the fact that she's super short, and literally it does sort of, because she's really powerful, but the fact that she's little makes it okay for her to be really big
Yeah,
and powerful.
I would
Because
agree.
she's still really, really little.
Yeah,
And I come across this a lot.
yeah,
I'm just not it's I could actually hurt him if I got really mad at him. So that's less funny than her looking up like this at him, but having the
yes,
same, actually having the power. And
yes,
they couldn't have cast that role better than they did,
yeah.
obviously.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to argue against Patty. I'm just saying it's not, it was a very, very, so that's completely news to me that you came and read for that. And there's, 199 other actresses who were probably equally as good at playing roles who didn't get it as well. So now you don't get that role. The show comes out. It's not a hit at the beginning. It slowly builds a following. You
We
get,
went and we went to a number of tapings because actually one of the main directors who came from the theater was a good friend of ours. And
Gary Zaks, are we talking?
Gary Zaks is who we're talking about.
Okay.
And so when he was doing it, we would go to the tapings, and every time we went, we were floored by how brilliant it was. And so I got to know people a little tiny. I mean, with Ray, it was just like in passing. Hi,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're great. But so I didn't really get to know too many. We were there to see Jerry. We were there to see Patty.
So you then came onto the floor after the tapings. So then I might have pictures of you prior to your first appearance as Peggy, the cookie lady.
You might,
Yeah,
because I was relatively famous.
Yeah.
You should have taken a picture of me.
Yeah. Well,
now you can go back and look.
Yes. Well, I had no idea. This is fantastic to learn this in all seriousness. And I have a ton of pictures. I love Jerry Zaks, and I have a ton of pictures of Jerry just throughout, directing, etc. So then, Amy, the role comes up for the cookie lady. And how do you find out? Just because a lot of people obviously don't know the mechanisms, because sometimes it's a general call. Sometimes someone like in the writer's room would say, who would be perfect for this? It didn't happen in this case, I don't think.
I don't think so. It's, although Tom may have said something, Tom McGowan may have said something, because he's, he and Phil obviously are best friends, but, and I think they knew that I had worked. Well, Phil, okay, I walk in, and this time Phil is there. So I go to audition, and at this bungalow on the lot, and introduce myself, and we start chatting, and he says, I've actually seen you work. Because you know what play he saw me in? That one that I did where I blew out my voice, where I played Tom's mom.
Wow.
Because he had come to see his buddy Tom doing this play at Yale.
Wow.
So, and he remembered me from that. So I was not totally, I wasn't known.
But you don't know how you wound up in that audition, whether it was a normal process. I don't think Tom would recommend you. I don't think he would have the foreknowledge that there's an episode. He would 100% recommend you if he knew it. And in the writer's room, when we would come up with shows, we'd be like, who would play this well? And people would throw out names like, okay, because you're not looking to do favors. You're looking to, and this I've always said to people, when you make an episode, you want if you wrote Peggy the Cookie Lady episode, you want whoever the actress is, you don't care. You want her to be unbelievably good because it makes you look good. It's a self-serving thing that serves everybody. So Tom wouldn't have he wouldn't have the knowledge of, 2 episodes. But once your name comes up, then of course, and so however you wound up in that audition, you read for Peggy and
I kill. And I felt very good about it, because I felt like I knew this woman, and she's so brilliantly written. And being just mean and tough is something. It's not who I am on any level in my real life. I really am not. so I really admire these women, but I can access it somehow. I don't know where it comes from. So I felt very good about the audition, and I had a very good agent. And you got to understand, by then I had done a shit ton of work. So including a lot of, I hadn't done comedy in a while, and I was starting to get known for like ER because I did that for over the course of 18 years. And once I started doing ER, suddenly I'm plugged into all this serious shit. And I had actually said to my agents fairly not long before that, it's like, I really want to go back and do comedy. I really would like to do some comedy. And then this happened, which so that was a little dream come true.
So then, just because people are asking all these questions, and I think, sorry, off of your comment of you're not like the cookie lady, that's called acting, and I'm not saying that as a joke. So many times people would ask, was Peter Boyle, like, was he really that mean, or that? And you knew Peter, just a gentle soul, and just the sweetest guy on the planet. So that is, definitely acting. But having said that, you have to bring the heat when it's necessary and have that comedic timing. So do you remember that first week on stage? Because now you're...
It was terrifying. It was terrifying because it was such, this was such an iconic show. And my job is to be really mean to this guy and then also threaten him physically. And the whole time I'm there holding that table, and that was kind of my idea, to flip the table over and like pin him on the neck. But the whole time I'm like, if I slip and I break his voice box, that's not only really painful, but that's like millions and millions and millions of dollars. Oh, fuck. Yeah. And then Patty comes in and she just like, boom, boom, throws it over his head. She totally could have broken his nose, and she was not the least bit concerned. And I was people said, did you have fun doing it? I said, no, I wouldn't call it fun. Everyone was lovely. Peter Boyle, I mean, he reached out and we chatted, he was like, people couldn't have been nicer. But I was very, very nervous because comedy's hard. It's not like you're just, until you get into the rhythm and stuff, it's not super fun. It's because it has to be so very
precise.
Exact.
Yeah. So Amy, and for those watching, we do know that Amy is slightly blurry at times and slightly clear at times. So we're aware, but she sounds perfect.
Better here. Is it this light? Oh man, you really make me feel better.
When you come back the second time, we'll do a test and check your speed. Yeah, check your speed. But since you can still hear me, Amy, since you left,
I'm here. Yeah, I'm trying.
I just because you worked on Roseanne. Okay, you did an episode of Roseanne. Someone just mentioned that in the comments. So what I want to be clear about, and you have such a vast amount of experience. I posted a picture of Phil giving notes. You're sitting on the couch, and Phil's giving notes after a run through. And I'll just because we're going to run out of time, so I'm going to accelerate this comment. But Phil was phenomenal at giving notes, and Phil would. And for those of you that aren't into acting, there's a way to give actors notes, and it's a very you have to have the trust of the actor. You have to be not insulting. You have to be clear in the execution. And Phil, for those watching who are like, I don't even know who Phil is. We just know that the cookie lady is great and Patty is funny. You're watching Phil directing. And so for those of you who, for you who had the experience on Roseanne, then all these dramas and doing movies, what was your feeling watching Phil that first week giving so many notes in a good way?
It was it was great because he was so precise. We were all in the same. Everybody was laser focused on exactly the same thing. We got to make this perfect. And there's no question in his mind that we could all make it perfect. And so we all had the same goal. He has the distance and the perspective, and the what he's giving us is incredibly useful. And it's like, of course, I want to be funnier. I want it to work better. And thank God he's here and he's going to help us make it better. he was, terrific, just great that way. And it clarified for me why the show was always so good. But by the way, I'd watched him giving notes. I couldn't hear it when I was at the tapings, but now I could sense what was going on because I could see the little shifts that he would make that would be so perfect. It was just that little thing that you didn't even know was bothering you. Oh, he took that away. Oh, he adjusted that. And oh, look at that. Now it's fantastic. Now it's that perfect thing.
And when you were on a show like Roseanne, and I'm not trying to make fun of Roseanne, or because I know nothing about how the show ran, but well, I'll give you the lead in. When I would go to other shows, I'd be amazed how they wouldn't give notes, and they would just go, okay, next. And I would see problems, and I would be like, wait, nobody's even. And I think that extra 2% that makes Everybody Loves Raymond so much better, and other shows that were great so much better, that extra effort they weren't doing, including, up to the last minute when a joke wouldn't get a laugh in front of a live audience, we'd all huddle and be like, let's tweak it, whereas other shows would move on. And do you remember on Roseanne at all what that experience was like comparatively?
I'm just going to be honest and say no, I don't. I was so disappointed because I read that script and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be a recurring character in Roseanne. I'm going to be Maul's love interest. And then, boom, you get to the last page and he's gay. It's like, fuck me. Okay, fine. I mean, it was really important and it was amazing for the time. It was extraordinary for them to do that. But so I'm trying to remember the experience of it. It was a very, very long time ago.
Yeah.
So the fact that I still get residuals, the fact that I remember I was on it, is what's extraordinary for me.
Well, then I think we can go past that. I think because I remember watching an interview with Doris Roberts, and she was talking about, she was up, this is maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, she gave the interview, and I just saw it recently, and she was saying, I didn't like when Phil did this. And I remember thinking how she was characterizing it was not, obviously Doris was amazing, and I love Doris as a person, and she was amazing as an actress. But when I watch this interview, I go, wow, if you weren't part of the process, it sounds like Phil's a tyrant. And I go, it's a completely different experience than what we all witnessed. And what she was talking about specifically is when you do comedy, the first time you do it in front of a live audience, that's your only chance to get the element of surprise. So Phil would yell hold if he felt the show, these 3 lines were going off the rails because someone was going to screw up the line or the timing was wrong. The audience would hear it. They'd hear the punchline. It wouldn't get a laugh. And they'd be like, all right, let's fix it after the second take. So Doris was saying you shouldn't do that to an actor. And from the writer's standpoint, and for you as an actress, that you're working so long, you write the script, and then your whole week of rehearsal, and you're just building up to this one moment in front of the 200 live people to get the laugh perfectly. So that's why Phil would yell, hold, because he could see, it's not going to work, and I don't have a chance to be polite and go, excuse me, Amy, would you mind the moment is gone. So he would harshly say that, and deliberately, and we'd all sit there. All the writers would go, "Oh, thank God, Phil yelled hold because it's not going to blow the punchline." And I know when Ray and we wrote a bunch of episodes together, but we wrote one with Jealous Robert, and Peter Boyle had messed up the setup before, and we're sitting there because we know the script so intimately, obviously, but Phil knew every single line of it, and he would go hold, and you're like, oh. Thank goodness. Now you have a chance to get, and it makes the actor look great too because they get that chance. You just can't take it personally as oh, he's picking on me for not, getting that laugh.
No. So no. You have to trust. I mean, and if you're going to trust anybody, you're going to trust you need to trust Phil. I mean, he's such a mensch, and he's such a professional. There was never for a second did I feel like he was bringing his ego in and or not caring about. He's unbelievably empathetic. So.
Yeah. So now
I'm sorry she felt that way. May she rest in peace.
Yes, I know. I felt I actually talked to Phil about it. He goes, what am I going to say? She's no longer around, and I can't. I go, yes, but if you just watch that in a vacuum, you'd think Phil's a tyrant who somehow,
Oh, God.
yeah, and it's so not the case. But
No.
so now, Amy, you do that appearance. Yes, you're correct. Had you crushed his windpipe, everybody'd be out of work. CBS would lose hundreds of millions of dollars. You would destroy the career of so many people. Patty Heaton, who probably just had a little I wouldn't mind hurting him a little bit, so she didn't care as much because she had to live with him every day. So now the show comes out, and do you watch? Can you watch yourself on TV? Like what happens when that episode comes out?
Oh, I watch it. Oh, yeah, fuck yeah. And I can say that, right? I'm sorry.
I can't believe you. So,
heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Absolutely. And I don't, to this day, I'm like, oh, why didn't I rehearse more with the cards? Because I had to push the always be selling, and no, always be closing. And I didn't push it all the way. And they left that in. So it was like always be, and then I finished it. And I still, to this day, get bothered by that. When
and
I
nobody,
hate it.
nobody knows that but you.
But now these, however many people,
yes,
who
will watch it.
Always be closing. I push it, and then I list the last 3 inches, and so I push it the rest of the way. It's so sad. If I wish, maybe we can go back and redo the whole thing.
Yeah, let's go. Let me call.
And I'm more secure. Yeah. Oh, call Phil.
By the way, somebody's asking if you could please say a couple of Peggy lines in character, and you can mull that over.
I've got one in my head right now.
Oh, let's hear it then.
You know what? I enjoyed it.
Oh, that gave me the most hearts here of the whole appearance. So now, so I can tell you now from the writer's room, because you don't know, you're not sitting in the writer's room. We knew that you scored a home run. So then we go, because here's a lot of people saying, oh, did Peter and Peggy get together? It would have been a great spinoff, all of this stuff. So we know that you scored a home run. So now if we ever have something where we can use you again, we go, okay, this is how it works in the writer's room. You're desperate for story. So that's the challenge. So we don't sit there and go, let's help Amy's career. We just sit there and go, okay, what is the best story for the show? And if you can fit in, then that's perfect. And obviously you did. And for those watching who aren't in the business, you can't have Amy be in every episode because we only have the main cast. And so CBS would go, why is Amy, we don't understand, why are you, as much as we would want to. So, because a lot of people are going, why didn't you use her more? It's like, well, we did use her a lot for someone that was a one and done character.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Yes.
Just so you know, I felt extremely honored that I got used as much as I did, because that you had, I mean, that was the show. And my husband, Drew, would comment on it all the time. It was really focused on these people, on these three families. And that was it. And that's so unusual. And they would have oftentimes just one story. Instead of an A, B, and C story, so many times there was one story and everybody was feeding into it. That was like unheard of in sitcoms. Sometimes you had scenes for like a 5-6 minute scene with just two people.
Yes. Well, we did do a scene that took place almost entirely in a car. It was a golf for it about who gets Marie.
I remember. Yeah. We were there for the taping.
Okay.
Unbelievable. That was the one we went, oh my God, that went from commercial break to commercial break.
Yes.
That was like, and then there was another time that it was the two of them in bed. And so it was just the two of them, and they did 2 takes, and they were both perfect.
Yeah. Yes. So, Amy.
Yes.
We have barely a few minutes left. So.
Well, I had nothing else to do today, Tom. So, well, whatever. We could take a little break. Everybody could go to drink, whatever.
Right.
I'll find some internet, and then we'll just keep going.
Yeah. So the next time you're back, because we're going to pick up where we left off, the next time you're back, we're going to make sure your internet is a little better. Everybody could hear everything you said, so that wasn't a problem. Now you look crystal clear. We have a lot of compliments for you. Did any of your scenes get cut? No, she didn't. I don't think anything got cut out. And on Everybody Loves Raymond, we were very precise, so we didn't shoot. We shot exactly to time, if possible. Our biggest problem was there would be so many laughs that we'd have something called a laugh spread. Saw that interview with Doris you referenced. Yes, it did make it sound to the uninitiated that the notes were a bit harsh. Great to hear the clarification. Yes, Amy, did your friendship with Patty and ask for more? Okay, Leo, I can't quite get it, but did your friendship with and ask for more episodes? I guess, did you ask Patty to get I don't think Amy would do that. And it just doesn't work that way anyway. I would like to have seen Peter and Peggy date and her episodes with Amy's parents. Yes, that would have been phenomenal. Peter's cocktail party, phenomenal. Yes, we'll get to that in our next visit. And Amy, they're asking, how do you pronounce your last name?
Aquino. Think of a queen. How hard can it be? I am not Latina. It's Italian, which is why it's pronounced Aquino. I appreciate it when people say Aquino, but it's incorrect because we're Italian. Like you.
Yes.
Aquino.
Do you know where in Italy your family is from?
Yeah. We actually brought my dad back to, well, the name Aquino comes from the town of Aquino, which is where St. Thomas Aquinas came from, hence his name. But
yes.
We actually my sister and I brought my parents back to my dad's hometown, which was outside of Naples, where his father emigrated from. And we were walking around the town, actually, and I'm asking this man in Italian for direct, I said, we're looking for this particular house and for this particular Aquino and, or for Mike Michael, or for Aquino. And at some point he says to me, well, I'm Aquino. I said, what? No, and he pulls out his license plate. I said, well, I'm Aquino. That little boy over there, he's Aquino too. They didn't give, everybody here is Aquino. So it was a little kind of crappy mountain town called Monteferrata, which got hit hard by the earthquakes in the 60s. That's where my dad's from. My mother's is Calabrian.
Oh, I will. So when we meet, I will tell you about finding my family in Sicily, which is not far from Calabria. So if you can swim.
Sicilian.
Yeah. Amy, you are amazing. This is a comment. I'm reading a comment. I'm not saying this. Amy, you're amazing. I love that you get to work with Patricia Heaton and Maura Tierney, my two favorites.
Oh my God, Maura Tierney, 3 times. Yep, brilliant. But the two of them.
I wish they did some more episodes with Peter and Peggy. They were great together. Yes. All right. So Amy, because you were my hardest guest to book, I need you to commit with everybody watching. In the next 7 years, you will be able to rejoin and continue where we left off.
Well, let me take a look and get back to you. Right now, I'm doing absolutely nothing, Tom. This is the most I have done for my career in about 6 months. So I am, it's always nice to have a reason to put on makeup, even if I can't be seen.
Yeah.
I'm getting more light here. There we go. A little more light.
You'll see it.
No, I would love to come back, and we could do a recurring like garden thing as different seasons. Right now, everything's kind of mellow, and
actually, I would love to. And when Phil starts up the movie nights again, which I think will not be too long, I would love to chat with you and your husband, of course. So when you're back, which hopefully, let's say in a month or two, Amy, I'll reach you. My people will find you and we'll figure it out. But we have to pick up on, we have so many more stories because I still want to go back to the La Jolla Playhouse. I want to go back to TV experiences and movie stuff, etc. So
okay.
I'm just racing through for final questions because the questions go away when this gets posted.
Chicago, Chicago.
I'm from, Teresa is one of our biggest fans. Her family has an Italian restaurant there called Tofano's. I'm from Uzbekistan and love so much Thiago show. I don't know if there's a show like that. Can you talk about auditioning for Moonstruck next time? you have to talk about auditioning for Moonstruck. Amy's amazing in Bosch, playing Lieutenant Billets, Captain now.
Oh, yeah.
How
I
much?
didn't even question it. Bosch.
Yep.
Yeah, you
So-
can watch Bosch. Mhm.
So next time, watch her in Bosch. Next time, that's on Amazon, correct? So we're going to talk about Moonstruck, about Bosch, Everybody Loves Raymond, continuing the 3 other episodes, etc. Amy, when performing at ELR, did you ever ask the writers or Phil to cast you in more episodes? No. I can tell you that she wouldn't do that. You don't.
Nope.
That's not how it works, really. Her performance was enough to make us want to keep using her. All right. I think I've combed through them all. Great. And now we can see you, Amy, which is good. So a big smile, because I need a frame to grab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What were you holding up? Is that the Raymond ring?
That's the Raymond ring. I was so very, very honored that Ray included me in the rings.
Oh, why didn't I get?
I love this.
So for everybody holding that, Ray at the end of the series gave everybody who worked on the show a ring with a little diamond in it, and it says "Everybody Loves Raymond." Yeah, it's having a tough time grabbing it. So it's a ring that Ray gave, and I'm very surprised because that speaks very highly of you.
Believe me, that was not lost on me. I mean, I only did 4 episodes, and when he presented me with this, I was like, wow. And it's one of my very treasured things, because I have loved watching Ray, and I'll just be my last thing. When I did the episode with him, I'm watching him just like make his way through in the very first scene, through the girls, and I went, oh my God, he has become an extraordinary actor. He started out a stand-up comedian, and he worked. And since then, I cannot take my eyes off him. Anything he's in, I am watching. Get Shorty, brilliant. I mean, he's the best thing in these things. Men of a certain age. Here he is with all these seasoned actors. He's the one I'm watching. It was just extraordinary.
I will pass that on to him, because Ray is not on Instagram. The only time he's on Instagram is when I do this from his house and he wants to know who I'm talking to, and then he pops his head in. That's the only time. So I will pass that on to him. And I agree. As his friend, I agree. But as a neutral observer, I agree. And I think for a lot of people, there's a prejudice against stand-ups, and Ray cannot be dishonest on camera. He is such a phenomenal, And you probably don't know this, but he lasted 1 day on news radio and got fired after the table read. So before Everybody Loves Raymond, his whole career in Hollywood lasted 1 day, and he would he would kill for doing stand-up, and a casting director would go, we could use him on something, and then he would go in and read, and he never ever got cast ever in anything until news radio. That lasted 1 day. So that really means a lot. So, all right, Amy Aquino, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for sharing so much. We have so much more to talk about. Yeah. And I hopefully will see you at Phil's, et cetera. So
soon. And that baby, I want to see that baby, not a baby anymore.
I like it. All right. Talk to you later, Amy. Bye, everybody.
Take care.
For watching.